it has to be free, voluntary exchange. That is a win-win exchange that creates the free market fragment.
We started up developments being made in Kampala and then the temporary flooding. We all kept quiet because we are paces.
That even when you're frustrated by a food system, maybe you lose your life, but you typically can take on demand to demand for this land because you had done clear documentation and such.
We Ugandans, maybe the government or policymakers are realizing that we cannot be patriotic enough.
Or with this on-trade potential, it can also have a stronger negotiation power into the global market.
Generally, talk about the land reverse. We have to talk about what have we producing. You get?
All of the commodities may work well in the Garsooga region, but not in Kampala. Tenors.
All here, I guess some of us here, elites or around plots. What terms do you include? When there is a supplement, where is your first source? You can say initiation, helicosera, el coisolo.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet again another amazing episode of Afro Liberty Talks, hosted by Africa Resty Media in partnership with Africa Institute for Liberty. On this particular moment, we are really going to explore the aspects of the foundation of a free and prosperous society, and most especially that Africa, in most of the times, as ourselves, at this principles really led by to us. We want to find out how they are to Africa and how best and practically and they be implemented. This time round, our special episode is at the Afro Liberty Colloquium 5, and we have an amazing audience which is really made to join us to give their opinion about the particular points that they are going to discuss. Now, with me today are amazing co-guests. As you can see, they are very sharp and ready to attack the topic or the big talent in the room. They are really ready to attack it with the greatest intellectuality that they really have gathered over the past years. We have think tank leaders, we have independent thinkers, you have lawyers, here we have political researchers, but let me introduce them one by one. Gentleman next to me is not new to our Afro Liberty Talks episode. I remember what is the episode about the Louisville, Uganda, who was posted, and that is Katushabe Ronald, politician, an activist, a justice hunter, and because of that, he has dared to dream because this year he decided complete nomination forms for the Uganda president 26 degree 31. Is it B position? So if we tell you guys more about his how we could push these principles, the gentleman, the extreme right is Odong Arthur, the orator, who is a selfless action for direct impact. We also have Elem Rodney, who is a researcher and also a political scientist. Then the head a middle bus, the only woman, she is from our audience. So she's going to briefly tell us her name and her profession.
All right. My name is Kagoya Resty. I'm a third-year student at Kampala International University Law School. I'm a youth advocate at the UN cohort. And I'm also a girls advocate at the States project implemented by Plan International, Femnet and Data the Swims Netherlands.
Wow. Later, another lawyer in Pando, so we have to learn the phrase. All right. So let's start with Odong Arthur. In Africa, so many young people are actually raising up, demanding liberty, demanding freedom, demanding democracy. But What are those tenets? What are those foundations that really make up a free and prosperous society?
Yeah, thanks so much, Church. To run through quickly, I'll try to be very quick as possible. But first and foremost, I want us to know that liberty is a political philosophy. And of course, when we talk of politics, we know the art of governing society. And then, but it rides or it oscillates on three principles. And I'll just highlight a few that are important for this discussion. First and foremost, it's individualism. That's the most important thing, that as an individual, there's a unique thing you have in society. You're the most important thing in society as an individual. Then, next to it comes a free market. Why? I'll try to relate how it appreciates to it. We don't understand that in as much as you are an individual, you don't live alone. You're not self-sufficient. You cannot eat all by yourself. You cannot put on all the blood by yourself. Definitely, you have to coexist with other people. But in coexisting with other people, we are different. But in us being different, there is a way we have to exchange. We have to transact. Basically, we have to trade. That's how it has to be free for rooted exchange. That is a win-win exchange that creates the free market fragment. Because I should first understand that I am an individual. I'm so important as I. But then I should be sensitive that I don't live alone in the society and I am not self-sufficient. So I have to exist with others, meaning I have to trade. And I have to trade voluntarily. I need not to force others or should others force me, but rather it should be a win-win voluntary. And that's what gives us the free market. But then we do also understand that in the exchange, there can be extremism because since we are individuals and I am dealing with another individual, I may use my comparative advantage against theirs. Now there is what we do appreciate as rule of law. Now these are laws that have to be in place to ensure that in as much as I am so important as an individual and I am sensitive and I am necessary to trade with other individuals in the free market basis, but there has to be laws to ensure that I am tied in my own freedom not to harm other people's freedom. Now that comes into rule of law. But then now we go understand that these laws cannot exist in the vacuum. They have to be enacted or put into practice by an institution. That's the third party. That does not mean the individual who is dealing with another individual. Now that comes in a limited government. That a government is an institution that we do entrust as individuals to come and oversee the rule of law to ensure we have this favorable exchange rate and environment. And then in doing that, we have now personal fabrics like tolerance. That in this law, there has to be tolerance. That in as much as I may hate check shares, I have to tolerate it. You see, I have to read the rule of law has to be there to ensure that I operate in my own tolerance. So basically, that's the entire fabric of, I've just brought to the key that are essential for our discussions. Now, how do they need us to prosperity? One, after understanding you as an individual, you're very important. It provokes you into what they call a comparative advantage. You realize your skills, you become observatory to create value in society because you have to be different to have a comparative advantage. Now, in doing so, you create your own difference, you create your own value, and then exchange with other people's value. Now, by exchange of goods and services, we understand that market is goods and services. So by exchanging, definitely we are improving its standards and rhetorical lives. That's how it progresses us to prosperity. Now that's a nutshell of how this libertarian principle evaluates us to the free and prosperous society. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Odong Arthur, for that foundation about the real ideas of liberty, the principles. That was a great foundation. Now, Elem, he has mentioned about so many ideas like tolerance and the free market, rule of law. So for you, in your personal experience, do you think these ideas are really practical in the context of Uganda?
Hello. Thank you very much, George, for the opportunity. Yes. To clearly state it is, it's really an idea that is worth pursuing. There are things that you consider as certain that are worth pursuing, even though we advocate there.
There's some ideas that are going to be more ideal than practical. In most cases, we say that can really achieve a percentage of this, and that's what we are really up to right now. Because we talk about the rule of law, realize that truly we are reaching to some level, but we are not yet somewhere. Really say that right now everyone is equal in front of the law. Because they talk about the rule of law, it's about access, protection of property, but about equality before the law and how do you display law, that is the Constitution. Are we all respecting the Constitution? Are we all being treated the same way under the Constitution? Okay. So you get to realize that there are always inadequacies in how these things are really practiced in Africa. So as our questions are like, have we checked our method? Because they give an example. It's like agriculture. People are into agriculture. People are saying that it does not commercialize. Some people who are subsistence farmers are turning into cash crops, but they're still having the cultural way of agriculture. So that love of farming that's really keeping them still finding themselves practicing what they consider very expensive. Yet differentiate their method towards being actual farmers. You get. So that's what we have in Africa. We said that they have a constitution, but how we practicing it, we are saying that it's only, I think, like 20%. It's what is really being seen as being practiced out of the constitution. But under the law, we see that there are people who are untouched. There are those who will say that there's slap period in the camera or nothing will happen to me. So even subtitles the internet pressures, some of them are really apprehended with it. So when it comes to limited government, I think in Africa we have this tendency of having youth, this whole idea of socialism, like state having over control about a lot of things. So today we talk about limited governments. The state, as we consider the president currently, says that our state is limited, or like it's liberalized, or our companies liberalized, something like that. Our economy is liberalized, okay? But get to realize that the government is being expanded day and night. You realize that you have more districts. You have the government is bigger than the private sector. Fit. The government is embedded almost like 3 million people, I think. But when you talk about the statistics on the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, you get to realize the UPS. You get to realize that the private sector, that is the formal sector, that is supposed to be the light industry, are employing less than the government is employing. And you ask yourself, can we really sustain ourselves with this economy? Except where the government is bigger than the private economy, that the private sector must really thrive better than the government. Where the taxes coming from? With that, one of us was saying that as Africans, want better the modern one in the big way. You see now that brought this new Toyota that have come in right now. The want of 1 billion or billion cheese, all that you realize that African heads of states are rushing to buy there. But you ask yourselves, can they really invest to really make them here? And start driving there for period. So the issue is, what to behave like the whites or behave like those who are really modernized, yet we still have the mentality of those who can't even create the smallest thing like a mud box. Those are mud boxes are important. So it's a thing that we can always discuss about. Thank you.
Okay, great. The only lady we have on the panel, you can give her the microphone. The two panelists mentioned about so many interesting things, especially about the rule of law. And as a lawyer, I would like to pick your mind on the aspect of the law that he said that all of us are actually, like, no one is above the law. But how is it practical in Uganda? And as a lawyer, what could be your view about the rule of law in Uganda as a principle or a foundation of a free society?
All right. In Uganda, we have that presumption that we are known is above the law. In Uganda, we appreciate we have the laws, and it happens that also that principle is stipulating enough the laws that we have in Uganda. Actually, most of the panels I attend to, they always appreciate Uganda having the best laws when they compare it with other countries. But as the core topic of discussion today is the free and then prosperous society. When we look at that alone, when we're in a country where the citizens Now here, Beta youths have a presumption that we shall wake up one morning when liberty is given to us, when we have the freedom, when we have the economic empowerment. We don't actually take the initiative to do something about it. We just presume that we shall wake up one morning and it will come from nowhere, get grant us all those principles of freedom. I can quote another example. The Uganda government, we have the three organs of the government. To have the judiciary, and then the others. But since I'm from the judiciary, I would have to supplement about something. We as lawyers, we subscribe to the Uganda society. Is we have our leaders too. It happens that our president of our law society is not within the country and we are comfortable. Actually, Kenyans were mocking at us that an average Uganda is better than a lawyer in Uganda. This is because of how comfortable we've been, and actually continue to be comfortable, being great with our president who's not within the country, and we have nothing to separate it. So when I look at my country and try to let the rule of law, when their citizens within the country can't account for anything, they had enough for us to ask for accountability from anyone. At some point, till we are comfortable with everything, we can only about the meeting in the morning. But even if it happened tomorrow, we may not have a nice as say about it. We just accept situations the way they are. And usually the climate change issues that we always discuss on such panels, with a lot of developments being made in Kampala and then the temporary flooding. We all came to quiet because we are baseless. That is the word I can use to describe as citizenship of Uganda. We don't seek accountability. We presume all these principles who come from normal yaking be granted to us by the version that we are citizens. So, how I'm saying, it is not our responsibility. Let us not presume that someone wake up and grant us all that we need. We can at least pick a few examples from Kenya, as this the Nemesis. He might after the death of the late Odinga. You saw a citizen going to court, but in Uganda, what have you questioned if that happened? So we are not free. The rule of thing Uganda is there theoretically, but practically we don't seek Uganda. Thank you.
For the party, the Microsoft, the Federal French Council. You've had so many videos of the Ferrobana business, and one of the points that Tepara is mentioning is that the government is actually doing much more than the private sector. That the government is employing more people than even the private sector, and also the aspects of the limited government. So when someone mentioned that actually the limited government in Uganda, or the government is actually becoming bigger in terms of power, in terms of size, and yet limited government being one of the principles of a free society. And I've seen you fighting for trying to do activism on the issue of justice. What could be your take on the aspect of that limited government had vis-a-vis the private sector?
So much, George. I would like to say the problem is regarded as if it is a wound, it's as old as since 2005. Ever since there was an amendment and a repealing of the term limits law, because you see, limited government is about having a government limited in size and in power. And when we look at power, we can also look at the period when Sebele Kif after. You see, when you look at the issue of overstaying power, you then look at creating branches that can as well maintain in power. So you cannot do checks on colleagues that commit corruption. If you have read the book of Le Priest by Machiavelli, he hits on these things. You can't check on these cumulates because you still want to stay in power. That when it comes to, you create unnecessary institutions as long as they can protect you in power. So that's the charity whose limited government focusing that a case like Uganda, you having 550 plus MPs, that's literally useless. if you're talking about implementation of rule of law in such a big government, it won't work. It would be like having a big, strong dog, but you closed its mouth. It can't bark, neither can it bite. So, whereby if you said you had 145 districts plus, or we can say those are 145 MPs, because the primary roles of MPs should be set laws for by approvals of budgets. Those are scenarios. But when we look at creating many sizes where people cannot even pull out or say their voices, their chains, it doesn't answer the government. Let us be borrowed from the election process for the presidential aspect. When we were there, the decision was to choose Bush to be on the ballot. You have looked at this presidential race, there is no independent presidential candidate. These are very clear faces. So where you find that because the one hacking the electoral commission has to hear a voice for the one who is in power. You cannot say you're going to judge a competition for the best cooker when you won in the kitchen and you're down to decide what should be voting in the kitchen. So we have that kind of challenge of our country that limited government, if you are saying it's limited in size, you have a small number of people governing, maybe you're looking at protection of people's taxes. But whenever the government is big, you have to think about how you exploit more, set high taxes to make sure you feed and pay your people. You've seen the allowances being granted ever when we are going to have bills discussed. Sensitive goods. We have the general commercial pay. You have seen the coffee bill. So whenever those decide to pay the attributes bill, have the allowances given before. Where does that money come from? Has accountability been disclosed? How they get this money paid from the fabric process? No. So that's the problem of lacking a limited government. Another thing what you know, I'm actually do not have time to if. The judges are not independent to take on their decisions. You look at your rally because you're looking at the state, but where a country like Kenya, a country like USA, where you're much aware, even though how much stronger this president is, he's going to leave power. You can take on a Cuban decision on not only him, but even people around him, all people related to him. Like my sister said, Kelly. People have freedom to say where I can challenge this person and at least I can have security before another judge. You are not sure where the gentlemen, those people are leaving the stake. So the biggest problem of Uganda, if we want to realize the individual liberty we are talking about, if we want to realize the free market economy, if we want to realize the protection of people's property, if we want to realize the rule of law, we should start with the limited government, limited in power and size. Then it's why they will think of serving the people. That's what they call us.
Okay, you can give the mic also to Odong. Odong, you mentioned about the aspect for free markets. And most of the liberty advocates are actually looking at how best the free market can help Africa to really prosper in terms of reducing poverty, unemployment. And for that reason, we see that the African Union has launched the Africa Free Trade earlier. But then the question comes for someone out there that how comes this free market system is really looking at intra-Africa trade instead of leaving, because we are seeing free market, instead of leaving it to be really free, as you mentioned that it is free, maybe international, maybe you can trade to other countries, not only intra countries. What could be your take as a fit that lead towards policy?
All right. Thanks very much. First and foremost, in the data that was released later 2023 shows that Africa traded within itself less than 13% of the global trade. That is Africa trading within Africa. Yet this is an economy, Africa combined is estimated to be over $4.2 trillion. But it only traded less than 13% within itself. This is a market that has over 54 countries. Now, where did the 87% go? because of these minor bilateral trade agreements that Africans have. You'll find Uganda is trading more with China than each can trade with Nigeria, which is a potential market. Now, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area comes with this understanding that yes, there's what they call comparative advantage fight. And in the market, you're either a weak consumer or a strong consumer. In the same way is with the supply. Now, here comes the situation that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area realizes that if Africa does not have this strong trade potential, because the African market has the biggest envelope. If you go to the EU market, that currently seems to be one of the largest markets, and compare it to the African market, if open for Africans to freely trade within Africa, it's easier. Now, another eternity of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is here. For you to go trade in China, you need to cross through a sea. For me to trade to, let's say, trade to Nairobi or trade to Kenya, I don't need to take all this long height of travel to get to Nairobi. So definitely it's this development of Africa, but also putting an understanding that yes, if Africa comes to combining its oil with its own trade potential, it can also have the strongman negotiation power into the global market. It is so pathetic that when Ruto goes to the ICC platform and he's begging for Africa to be represented, yet Africa can build its own potential and it is called to represent. These are two different things. That where Africa's economic potential is utilized as Africa, then Africa will have a say in the global market, other than Africa under trading in the global market. So basically, before we far-fetch or we far-think, this is an example that Felicity always says, that when you're developing solutions, you develop local solutions for local problems. You don't develop international solutions for local problems. The Africa's problem of trade is African ditch. So first sort it within Africa. If it first works within Africa, then it can open up to the global landscape. So the AFCFTA is in that understanding, but it is not also sabotaging any country that would want to trade far past Africa. So its own understanding is how can we trade utilize this bigger vacuum that is existing within Africa. A repeat market that we are ignoring and we are running to another market. Yes.
Okay. As a researcher, I think this is the last round of questions that will be get to hear from our amazing audience. He's mentioned about the issue of freight, and he said that why would a fellow Africa, let me say Kenya and Uganda, someone goes to China someone would prefer to trade with China and a Ugandan. There are so many Ugandans who are trading in China and they don't trade with other countries which are near them, and they don't even need to cross forward all those inferences. As a researcher, what do you think would be the problem?
Sincerely speaking, I remember a time also wrote about the CFTA agreement, and I presented it clearly that sometimes even these presidents have their own loggerheads. There's a writing, and that's what someone wrote about hegemonic presidents in Africa. It's the way they always feel threatened whenever they try to create these confederations like the East African Confederation. There's always one who wants to be more powerful than others. And even with this FTA, CFTA agreement, you get to realize that the issue not even about the agreement itself. It's about the powerful people who is going to have the advantage over the others. But also we talk about what are we doing about value addition. Because why are you complaining about China yet you are making it a single laptop, a phone? Yet I'm trading with China because I'm betting either used phones there. I come and sell them in Uganda. And can I get them in Nigeria? No. Do we have any industry here and the other manufacturers value high value machines? No. You get? So I think even as we talk about the lab in the US, we have to talk about what are we producing. You get? Because if at all you talk about only what we can consume from each we can normally get a royal primary boom place.
Yes, we have also an aspect of Obu, Uganda, a big cat. But as Uganda, do you think you go on a market to find a Taiwanese, the Japanese, and the Obu? Would you choose both?
All those products are, I don't say that since I am what, and maybe I have an education that is Western influence, I might choose only the whites of those who have equal takers. But I think also people must also be critical. I think it's also what to talk about is what we consider economies of scales. Sometimes when you're making like $5 and the other node makes $1,000, that was so cheaper than you. In book, we have a situation where like someone comes at this like, this guy is something like this and has made a jumper. A jumper is 80,000. Yet the manufactured one is at catch 5. Because that's it ratio. Am I supposed to pay that investing? I'm supposed to consider the cost of buying something. So I think that's a contradiction. When you go into a market where the person is still just, developing machineries or like technologies or producing, the person wants to charge you higher. The same that you're buying something that is it being nationalistic. How can I be patriotic when I have this stuff? But like, which is still what? But
Okay, actually, you can, if the my preferred takes one. But on that point you mentioned, I think we Ugandans, maybe the government or policymakers are realizing that we are not being patriotic enough. I had someone suggesting that they actually want to introduce a military course so that we are more patriotic. So when you finish in year 6, you go 2 years for military training so that you're more you look brought to and ready to defend your country. So I don't know how that will work, but please allow me to please, yeah.
oh, I just say sorry about this national. It's called the National Youth Service. I think it's happened in Nigeria and some other countries, but I think it's more popular in Nigeria. Yes, it's like a 1 year situation where like you're going to military service or something like that. It's not like a bad thing. I think patriotism to the public. As long as we can do it, we can reply. Give an example. Kashado wants to check Uganda. He's being patriotic, though he has his interests in it. But the problem is that sometimes we must also understand that we are not selfless people. We all have self-interest. That's why we emphasize spirit of liberty. It is yet. The aspect is that when you talk about just changing the world, you still talk about changing yourself. You get. But the issue that when we can become patriotic, we just not critique about what are the threats of making that happen. You get. How can I become patriotic? Buying a shoe of around 80,000. That would be Uganda. It's somewhere in the centimeter 20. And best otherwise, the government closes other markets. And I have only one choice. That's really coming out. And also that can also happen. Because like in China, I think there was a time where they forced their product or sugar to produce inward. And that's also a good market strategy. But sometimes in a society where we have internet, can always complain because of the comparative discrepancy. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Okay, this was paid to a lawyer. Athens, they mentioned about like the rule of law, you are a lawyer, and they were chapter to tolerance that if enables marriage a shirt which is squared, maybe, for example, let me say it, I don't like it, checked, maybe I don't like it, but I should tolerate his really easy shirt. So where do you think you have the limits? Do you think freedom has limits? Or totally is on the rule of law? Because they also mention about free expression. But where do we have, like, where does is freedom stop? Or it has to go all where?
Alright. Currency and then in Uganda, Uganda is on posture the different cultures. Sabbath reported that we have different laws. Uganda parent of Uganda, the courage parliament. You find someone from Karamanja region, Teso, Osoka, Uganda, Western region. Meaning you can now appreciate the differences that we have. Meaning, if ever you apply a universal principle, you cannot compel everybody because our backgrounds are not the same. Now we don't have the economic aspect of it. We have the rich, we have the poor, and the middle class. And you've now been emphasizing the people by saying the words. And then we have the target market. When you're producing something as Uganda, and then I'm not the target market, you cannot compel me to take it. For how much I love my country. Some of the commodities may work well in the Busoga region, but not in Kampala. So when we appreciate the differences between the people that we are leading, all this can be achieved if we appreciate it. Yeah, because we are like the same people per se. Playways to Africa as a continent. We have the Anglophones and then the Francophones. Our relationship between those two are historical. Colonialism brought a big difference between these countries. Even if you're from Uganda, you found someone from another country speaking French, the bond is so less compared to when you meet someone from UK. It is actually, you can more connect with someone from the other country compared to that because of the aspect of colonialism. So I don't agree with making X or Palestine here and there. We should promote the freedom, the liberty, and then also promote the right to choice to consume what my work.
Okay, so I think I'll play with you, then we go to the audience. We have some questions for you. Let's look at the aspect of property rights. In Uganda, you see what's starting, especially when it comes to land rights, property. It's really that you have the documents, but you can find someone, because property right is one of the principles of a free and prosperous society. But in most cases, you find that someone has the land title, and I also have the same land title. So, as a lawyer or a justice reformer, what do you think would be the best aim for us to have really the foundation, strong property rights in the country?
Okay, thank you so much. But before that, allow me to remember that them say they actually have a state of interest. If that is I to possess myself to share this station. No, I didn't want us to have a state that has a system. Not where we need the word Gamba. No, we don't have to first say Skasharabo is the judge, Skasharabo is on the panel, let him handle my thing. So pay for the person one of our sister to when she had actually passed on from Morabo. They were reluctant the whole day to work on her. Namayan. But after passing on and they saw the road mayors people come, they say, oh, she has passed on via her hands, but she has big people behind her. So it means you have to first look at a person. You want a system where you are trained to. When as a person asking who you are. That's the painful thing. And that's what I hated in my 5 pillars campaign. On my website, when you check Katushabe Ronald. These are things you really have to work on. So what you ask me about the property rights, I think we do appreciate the role Justice Catherine Bavugumere was trying to bring. The exposure, but it was not enough. Expose, and literally she showed to us that it is most of these big people who are grabbing people's hand. So the moment someone hears of land, they are quickly getting this plot of land. You have not searched who is the owner. Searching is very key. Being a survey, do not only go to lands and apply. Like you're saying, you find different people have titles. We have had a scenario where robbers are now smart, economy. What they go to NASA, photo your national identity card, get your passport photo, put it on the search report, put on top, and show like this is the same person. So you have to actually go extra searching and find out what agreements and transfer forms were signed. Ask the LC one person on the ground. Have a share it with the drunkards. If you want to know the truth, always look for these people. The drunkard, a king, and a number person. Take advantage of these people. Associate with these young kids. Who owns this land in this area? They will tell you this is someone's war. But when you eliminate or just make second because of the money, people do not do these things. You find people are purchasing land locally. People do not know that land like to foreigners. If we just see as a purchasing around here, but they actually not supposed to own land. All those are clear. Foreigners, this can only own land here by leasing. They can only attain so that saving they own. Access land by leasing. Under his agreement. For a period not exceeding 99 years, I think even that period is too much. Okay, very foot. Some of us have been, some of them are slapping us 99 years. So we have to put into consideration of these things of doing the documentation. It helps to the people present, and that's why can that even money courts frustrate you because those people are dying because of wrangles. That even when you're frustrated by a food system, maybe you lose your life. But you typically can't take on the mountain to demand for this land because you had done clear documentation and such. They follow the proper means. People do not care about saying, let me have the land title, let me have a document for this. The moment they are told, now like, I'm going to use my brother's place, Arthur, in the north. It is hard to find in the north. At some people says, people say, I have a document they like. By the time it comes, if this person is in court, they apply for pay. They ask you, where is your security? They just said, you know, I have a big chunk of ground. Where is your security? What shows? So at least having a document which can do, this is my land, these are the boundaries, this is the agreement, or something given to me was inherited. And when people take it that kind of match type, giving it type, what you acquiring ground, when you are, what you are rating, considering all the time is one. If you buy ground, Costa does it have a road? Include it into the agreement. Does it have a water source? All those are isn't. Include it in the agreement. So, what is part of this land? If you say, I'm purchasing the land only in the agreement, people are very excited. This is taking the land, the other is getting money, they are all quick. They're the son of a church will come up and say, when you purchase this land, you didn't say you're purchasing the house E. Because if you say you're purchasing the fixer, now you start going to court. In the way I always tell people this story, there is the land where a lawyer sold to someone the flag house, the other demolished it to construct a gutter, and the other told him, I did sell you what is down, I sold in the flag house. So the land has been there for many years. I was in Uganda for certain matter. This one did talk about the issue of having the access road. The moment he purchased the plot, the other was interested in the plot. He closed it again because they were like to assist like a best house prostitutes. So he kept excuses that I saw condoms, I saw this and this. The road was closed. To check the agreement after being National Building Review Authority for Ministry of Works, I got ashamed. The agreement doesn't indicate the same. So people including this clear tap say, I have a road, I have a right of way, I have a right to access water, in this kind of things. People, tenants. All here, at least some of us here, elats or our uncles. What terms do you include? When there is a supplement, where is your first source? You can say any issue, reconcile, they console. People are excited. You see an arbitrator, you don't care. By the time they say go to an arbitrator, the arbitrator is asking you for 20 million. The issue you're calling for is only 2 million. They be also not claiming your rights and say that we am entitled to this or this is also entitled to this or this. By the time they are telling you to leave, I didn't see this time. Because people are excited about that. So the issue of considering all this time, say, I am entitled to a notice when evicting me in a house. He's also entitled to give you a notice in case they want to evict you. So these terms, these are things people do not consider. And in it, by the time you check, you're like, but you have no right. Rascally, that matter which is really disturbing. This is a risk agreement by they just made a memorandum to understand it. And the person is leasing land for 10 years, but he has constructed structures which are fit to stay for 100 years, and he didn't indicate in that land that this person is going to use this land for these purposes. In the case that established the structure, it will be demolished, or he can take over it, or it will remain to the owner of the land. These are types of people just picking up. And but the time they discover paying much money to the lawyer to rescue them because instead of making a simple one before break the agreement. So these are key things I just advise our people to pay, to be key, do HS, document, have this record, and do not be excited over property. But take your terms, take your time. Thank you so much. That's what it is.
Right. Thank you very much for that really the free demo advice. So those of you who have attended our session, I remember I reached to a old farm one day and he told me just to ask it or sell to me 250. So you can imagine it was a low farm. Before they come in your case, just to advise them 250. So your 250 you should give it to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the edge of this particular episode, communication is really not effective if we don't get
Just verbal, just something. So normally forget this. The issues all we are. People have also to know the categories of land we have here. It's a newer system that we have customary, which you can either be by inheriting by from your people. Like when you go to the north, it's so much common there, or by clearing forests. They are made to how you acquire this land. Then we have released a newer system that you actually released this land, paid to the other person, and agreed to a certain period. I think your dues on that land, which costs not exceeding to 99 years. But when it comes to public land, it's normally a period of 40 years. Public land, I mean, this is government land, but you're leasing on it. Ghana does it go? Get that period. Then we have the minor land. This is the land under the Kabaka. If you all recall, where you hear people owning the Divanja and Soto. Then we have what we call freehold tenure system. You own its land for you have perpetual rights and conclusive rights ownership over this land. That actually when you are passing it or selling it to this other person, it is very much clear now. With these different tenure systems, they have different authorities. If my Orania also to over the kingdom also of Uganda, you find that Yasha has talked about it, he paid a usul. So you find like a land, your powers are from those people who initiated it, not. The other thing is, if you are going to produce children or dealing with any fossils, in look I've always said it's what you call adverse possession. When someone stays on your land for a period of 12 years and they have been unchanged, and they at most normally claim right over ownership. So if you sit as a parent, so I was just say, yeah, what is that issues with my dad? Don't sugar is on my land. At times they are right. The issue is you can reach at a certain time and claim ownership. Or this say that. So you have to put into consideration all these things that you have at least take initial steps of challenging this before. Then the limitation appeal, challenging another action. That because you should look at fellow VRs, say, okay, these people are stable on our land, but you have to brother him in courts of law. These people have been there for 34 years and you have never taken any action. You can't grab them to court. So the limitation period is always 12 years. In the case of earlier contract to the breach and what, you always have the time of 60 months. How? You have agreed this land that maybe like there's a scenario, these people have refused to process it into a lease title. Because their target is to steal the wrong title to come. So then you can sue for what we call breach of contract. But the limitation period is already 6 months. So if you have breached with someone and you're quiet for 2 years, they have not performed anything. You need to raise a point of action to take against them. If you have been quiet and you know you have agreed upon this, ready to pay an road, the tenant, when it comes to a contract. Because even an angry like for road and tenant is referred to do as a contract. So that's some things more I wanted to add on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ronald and other panelists. We will now want to take only 2 questions from the audience because communication is not effective if there is really no feedback.
To summarize this, you hit it on a really nice topic that free the free Africa, the trading Africa, and I thought how I would just give some quick inputs. I wouldn't want to talk about some fish leaders you have no power over. But from time immemorial, our independence was mostly delayed because of selfishness of leaders. Everyone wants his area.
so I wouldn't really want. But then too, we talk about patriotism. I do not think exclusively patriotism is me buying the book. I think I can show my patriotism in other ways, especially considering it's a free market. So what limits us to do this? One is quality. You actually realize much as we can emphasize on buy within Africa, but you got the quality within Africa. Matter of fact, is an example of this Toyota Hilux vehicles. The ones made from South Africa are always the worst part. So someone would rather keep it from Japan. Why would I buy something so terrible because I'm supporting Africa? You also see the products we have around here, buy it will be from Uganda. Even actually, to such an extent that someone has to even go and buy cooking oil, the one from K, because the one from Uganda has issues. So I think really, if we are to do well, we should work on our policy. But also the transport cost. Do you know a route ticket to Dubai is cheaper than a route ticket to Juba? In Franchi, where you can go bypass. So someone sits down and thinks, is it really worth it to me to go to Egypt to buy something? Matter of fact, I will get few things. If I go to Dubai, I will shop at the one-off. I'll buy everything. So maybe the other thing is we should improve our transport. What if we get high-speed trains throughout Africa? Maybe that will work. But also the other thing is, if you look at the cost of what we actually need. Now, it's very hard for Africa to trade within Africa because we are all predominantly raw material producing countries. For example, if a country is to come to Uganda, say wants coffee, it will get unprocessed coffee. So why would someone come here where they can actually grow that coffee from their backyard? So it's actually us to add value to our products and actually make multiple sales for people to do that. But also the other thing is, if you look at the market forces, China is going to sell things cheaply because they produce at a very high quantity. And they said a lot. How frequent is that here? We are going to produce very few things. Much as we say, okay, now we know what we are going to produce, what we exclusively use, we'll see the government has tried using UTL by making it compulsory that one government has it, right? So we are completely bad. But also lastly, from what I've seen here, look at the availability of the transport. Look at African airports. You may want to go to Nigeria, but for you to get a flight, you may need to wait for a day. Which is not the case with Dubai or China or US step, where at every minute, there's a paying such a must to go there. So would I wait? Would I sit and wait? My customers are waiting because I need to buy something from Chad. So I think like one thing I would say, you as the airlines here, can you maybe come up with these good ideas where we can start from considering our context, so that at the end of the day, we would all happily to trade in Africa. But I can't go and buy a bag at African village of 200,000 when it's literally taking place to the China bag. I would have put that.
Okay. George, thank you. One question we call. One person. If he's not there, we'll proceed.
Really, that's a question, but I just want to add something briefly about concept note. I think as we have so many ideas, we should not just speak and leak them. If there's an idea, we should put in a concept note so we can present it. Because the more we go to the speak without presenting them, they make meaningless. Yeah, it's very, very important. If there's an idea we think can work the best for the youth, for our country, expect to put it down, we present it. To show some value what we are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That's very pop. And this brings us to the end. But before that, we think our panelists will convey that each of them a chance to basic remark. 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you so much. What I can say to my fellow colleagues is that as they set up Master in one day, it's like my brother Wang is saying, as fellow youths, the nation is not changed by old trees. It's always the old trees. We still have to keep on doing great things. We know we are in fear, we think we can't do anything, but we also have to recall one thing. Like a flower is seen as a flower, it has fallen. And it's the flower is in contract. That's good. People will remember these works. Yes, we couldn't be that, like he said in his first speech, that Jet Kadiyam and the number they remember after their days. But By then, they start reflecting and putting into practice what you're studying for. So we shouldn't take this for granted. None of the alcoholists or rapists will, by the time of his death, puts in his or her will that Kosan Wood was so good at drinking alcohol when we are at the bar, he should be the executor to my property. None of them. They look at independent, good people in societies. That's how you look at how beautiful good things are in them. That's what I can say. Don't give up. Continue doing the best. Use the media, speak, and do not care about numbers. If Jesus had select disciples and they disconnect to 12, you think he didn't see? You are reading the Bible, Judges chapter 6, verse 11. God was like, the soldiers you have are very many, forgive you. Reduce them to a few number. It is a few people who sell the message, not the crowds. Keep it up, keep the fight. Thank you, sir.
All right. Dear youths, to me, my take home and by the encouragement to you that church begins with you. Appreciate your rights, learn your freedoms, be a good citizen. We can influence think through that. And then lastly, a girl advocates. So I'm so open to collaborations. If you're doing a similar project somewhere, yeah, we can complete carbonism level thinking too.
Anyway, yeah. Gore said I was writing something around climate change and industrialization in Africa.
I could realize that you're so obsessed with climate change, climate financing, and leadership payers for industrialization. And here's the people who can't even make my pots in their own country. So it realized that contribution. So I believe that we need to engage in manufacturing, industrialization. Nations were never changed by the ones of good leaders. Professor Lumumba can talk the way he wants, but if Adoro doesn't do anything, Elon Musk is not better than he. Ham is better than he. Ham is creating a change that Professor Lumumba would always just talk about. You get so. People have pointed out to change the society. Yes, so. As we talk about chain nuggets, we can be change agents, but we should see that relations were changed because of economic developing, like restricted economic persons. I've got to realize that yes, it does is what pushes nations to greater heights. Someone said that money changes Tony to go. That so there are some places that we have always seen as a bushel, but now right now we see storied buildings in there because of people have money. So, but also we have to ask ourselves, in which category of nationalization are we? We are still producers of raw materials, cooking oil. Other people are producing the AI machines, the things that are capable in command these other technologies. For us, we are still obsessed with serving saying that you don't put things from Nigeria, that industry, that takes the short skirts off. I say, but are we engaging in the world that you really are we trying to change the world, or we are just obsessed with what other people have changed? Yes, you're obsessed with the iPhone 17. Have you created even a car relating you know? So those are things that we should be talking about. So I'm asking myself, how are we going to change the world if at all we are just still obsessed with who enters the political space or not? Who is not truly has better? We're asking ourselves, in the Western world, we see that you are all obsessed with conspiracy theories. But at the other back of the world, they're doing other things. They're doing things that can strengthen the results are also engaging the industrialization forces. They are producing products. What they're doing, yes. You can't be talking about when they're just producing things that can be produced by calculations at a cheaper price. We get. So I'm saying that one of the political scholars often say that a country's complex civilization can be determined by how best can produce machines that can make other machines, that can make instruments that can be used to make other machines that will be used to improve on the products or the society itself. So the sophistication of machinery and industrialization are very important for nations. You can be talking about how we can create a society where everything is being imported. That's how Pan-Africanism should change focus. It shouldn't be focusing on which government is more stronger than us and is refresh our policy. If we don't think about how we create an economy that can also compete favorably with some more. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much. I think I'll just continue slightly from what I have to say. Though I want to ask in this way that are we changing ourselves for the world, or the world is changing us for itself? That makes us that makes me come to a provoking us to really seek knowledge and act in knowledge. Because if ignorance is so expensive, ignorance is really expensive, and in the end of it, let's say the world better than we found it. Thank you.
Thank you for that brief report, Joe, as the director. And well, thank you all the parents for those insights. And to our audience, thank you for being so sharp and active. And of course, our online audience, the question is still in your front. So we hope you really engage on our YouTube channel. And this brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for following, and thank you for watching to this far. I remain George Kanihamba, the host, and see you in the next episode.